What's up, guys? This is Pedro from My Stuttering Life, where you will hear the good, the bad, the very ugly. We're gonna laugh, we're gonna cry, but through it all, just know that you are not alone. So, let's get started. Welcome, Shian Williams.
Hi, Pedro. Thank you so much for having me here today. It really is a pleasure.
This is a huge honor. Thank you. We have a lot of topics to cover, so let's get started.
Awesome.
So, do you remember when you first began to stutter?
Yes. I was in kindergarten at that time. And in that, I remember just having a lot of difficulty. The teachers would tell me that I needed to practice my reading more, which was kind of odd because I've been reading since I was 3, so I knew I could read. So they would, consistently tell me to practice my reading more. And a lot of times during conversation as well with like my family and stuff, they would notice my stutter, but they never really brought a big attention to my stutter. Everyone sort of looked at it like, oh, she stutters, but it's not really impacting her in an academic way. So, a lot of people just sort of shied over it, even though it impacted me socially. So I feel like when I first began stuttering, I don't think I know like the exact moment, but I just know that it was a point where I became more self-conscious than I was previously.
Does it run in your family? Are there any other family members who stutter?
So, not to my knowledge, but my family is from Jamaica. And in Jamaica, a lot of people, stuttering is pretty prevalent in Jamaica just due to the dialect. Everyone speaks very fast and stuff. And sometimes I did catch my parents. I don't know if it was necessarily thought formulation or whatnot, but they would have these blocks where nothing would come out. And but for them, it wasn't to the degree, that I was stuttering. So I never really looked at it like they stuttered too or anything, but no one directly in my family has the struggle when it comes to communicating as I do.
Let's talk about speech therapy. Did you ever have it in school? And if you did, was it helpful?
Okay. So when they first evaluated me for speech therapy, I was probably in the 2nd grade, and they told me I didn't stutter. So I had this speech therapist. She told me I didn't stutter, it was just like, that's crazy. And I guess because back then it didn't have a academic impact on me, that the speech therapist sort of glossed it over, because I was always a straight A student. So because it didn't have that impact on me, they were just like, you don't stutter. But obviously my stuttering, my disfluency, it increased. And it got to the point where my family, they weren't really noticing it to the point to have me to seek help. And it wasn't until 7th grade, because I was literally coming home crying every day because I didn't know how to cope with this, and no one was really talking about it around me. They continued to pretend like this wasn't an issue. And I was overwhelmed with the fact that every day I felt like I was talented academically. I felt like I had all this to give, but every time I wanted to speak, nothing would come out. I blocked really bad. I blocked really bad during those years that I was stuttering. So things like my name, things like just pretty much anything that you want to say. Ordering food, you take that for granted and stuff like that. I just had difficulty saying I was not speaking on the phone, anything like that. And it wasn't until 7th grade where I just was like over it. And I told my mom, and I was just like, I really need speech therapy. And, honestly, like looking back, I'm kind of surprised that none of the teachers even recommended it again once I got to middle school or anything like that. But, you know, it is what it is. But I didn't get speech therapy. So I went to speech therapy in private practice because I did not want to go to speech therapy in the school. And I had an issue that my mom was having just conflicts with work and me going to the speech therapist. So I, you know, had to stop abruptly. And that's when I had to consider speech therapy in the school. So I did consider it, and I went one time. And the reasoning why I went that one time was because the lady came to my classroom and she got me. And, you know, I was in 7th grade at that time, and the big social stigma around just being pulled from class, even though I knew I was talented, I was in gifted classes. And I honestly, at that age, I wasn't able to articulate it, but the other students who were in the special education, you know, so who are also receiving special education services, they had a range of disabilities. And so she had took me with pretty much the entire range of disabilities, and it was kind of a shock for me. I was a little bit taken aback. And we had this little pretty much closet classroom, and she decided to do speech therapy while the rest of the class is literally jumping off the wall. And I was a very reserved person, so, and a very, very, very reserved person, and also just very sensitive just to other things. So I wasn't used to that, and it honestly was kind of traumatic. And she's here trying to do these drills, and I'm just like, aren't you going to control your classroom?
Like, that's a thought.
It was just too much. And so once that was done, they gave me so much anxiety, as you can imagine. And the next day, I like hid under the desk when she came. I literally was under the desk when she came. And I told my mom, I was like, I'm not going back there. And my mom wrote a note, and like that was the end of that. And I just dealt with my speech, really, to be honest. I never received speech therapy formally again until I was in college, where I seeked it out for a short while. And I mean, to be honest, my speech therapist that I had at that was private pay, she was at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. I don't know if she's still there. I wish I could like look her up again. Her name was Tanya. I don't remember her last name, but she was really integral in me just getting that relief that I never experienced before. Like, I was able to read aloud in class. I was able to do presentations. I was able to say my name. I was able to do all these things. And it was so amazing. And I feel like a lot of times when people receive speech therapy for the first time, you know, especially when it's been that long, you're highly motivated. And so I had a lot of results. But unfortunately, because I was dismissed from speech therapy without really doing a dismissal, without really having that opportunity to speak about generalization and the fact that you could relapse too, you know, that I had, of course, my stuttering, you know, came back, obviously not as bad and stuff like that, not as this fluent, but it came back in that sense. But I was very grateful for, you know, her work that she did with me.
Oh, you hit a lot of, I mean, look, I have been writing down notes. Okay. So, okay, number one, you had mentioned social stigma. All right. Mm-hmm. So you are very young, Cheyenne. You are very young.
That young.
You know, I keep it real, right? You look very young, like 18, 19. All right. So for Pedro, you know, I'm 50. So back in my day, they didn't pull you out of class. No, Cheyenne. We had that big box PA in every room. And the principal's office, the counselor would call out Pedro Peña to speech therapy. You talk about social stigma. And this was in the 1970s. Just picture that, in the late 1970s, the early 80s, the mid 80s, the late 80s. Yeah. I mean, they would just call you over the PA, and then, I mean, it halts everything.
It does.
And then all the kids are looking at you like, what's wrong with you? And I mean, so I mean, on top of everything, you add social stigma. It's like, holy mac and cheese. I mean, come on, just give me a break. Let me leave in, s- s- silence, and go
Mhm.
to the office. No, no, no. They had to announce it to the entire school. And I mean, that was rough because,
Yeah.
um, you know, as you know, kids are cruel. I mean, kids are mean, and I mean, they will mock you and tease you, and they would call me Porky Pig, and I mean, it was so. I mean, that was just rough. But I am glad that later in life you went back into it, and
Mhm.
found that it was helpful. I've had 20 years of
Mhm.
speech therapy, on and off. I went all through school.
Mhm.
Um, I did it in the in the U.S. U.S. Air Force.
Mhm.
I actually met with a hypnotherapist,
Hmm.
and I mean, oh, he was fantastic. And then afterwards, in college, I also sought help in college. So I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean,
Yes.
people don't realize that what we go through on a daily basis,
Mhm.
on an hourly basis, on a minute by minute basis. Ooh,
Mhm.
and Cheyenne, I don't have to tell you on on a second by second basis, because you just don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah. Woof.
Mhm.
School.
Mhm.
Let's You had touched on it briefly, but talk to me about your school experience as a person who stutters.
Yeah. So when I think of school, I'm just gonna talk about pretty much like the high school, middle school, years. Those are really difficult for me and difficult for me socially. I honestly, I couldn't make a difference between if the reason why I didn't have many friends or a strong support system was because I stuttered or because of my personality. So I really struggled in those years, and I think it was because my stuttering, it. I allowed for my stuttering to stop me from exploring myself, from really building just that authentic, just knowing of who I was. So a lot of things that I wanted to do, I didn't necessarily engage in if it was like outside of academics and stuff. I feel like I could have been a great athlete and stuff like that too. And I never really engaged with that because I feared the social aspects of those things. And a lot of people tell me there was like, if you would have been a part of a team and you guys are winning, it wouldn't have mattered, whether you stuttered or not and stuff. But I didn't really think about it that way. And there was no one really encouraging me to, go those routes either. So I sort of stayed in my little bubble, my academic bubble for the most part. I think that stuttering in in school, I just always felt different. I always felt misunderstood. I always felt like I was trying to prove myself in social situations as well too, which made it just hard to just connect on a real level with a lot of my peers. I feel like I was friends with a lot of my teachers. My teachers, they loved me and stuff like that, and we had good relationships. But when it came to my peers, they were always changing. My friend group changed every year, type of thing. And so, I feel like that instability, I guess, when it comes to just connection and just network, sort of, it definitely impacted me in adulthood, where I feel like now I'm like relearning how to be a friend, how to like what does true connection really look like, what does being vulnerable and stuff like that look like now in my connections, now that I have a more strong sense of self because I actually know more about who I am. So I think that as a person who stutters in school, that the main thing that probably hindered me was just not exploring me. I feel like if I would have still been a person who stutters, but I still engaged in things that I really enjoyed and really put myself out there in that it probably would have made as big of a emotional impact as it did. So So yeah, so that's my spiel about school.
Ooh, Cheyenne, my hand hurts from writing down all these notes because let me tell you, you are just, ooh, I think we're twins. We are twins because you were BFFs with your teachers. I was BFFs with the janitors because let me tell
Okay.
you, I mean, nobody wanted to hang out with a kid who stuttered and sputtered and spit. So I would eat lunch in the janitor's, a closet. I mean, I grew accustomed to the odors of Clorox and
Wow.
Comet, and it's like, oh, it's like home. Because I mean, I spent all those years in the janitor's closet just hanging out, talking with an adult. And I mean, they didn't care that I mean basically, I was just hanging out in their closet. And you made a profound point, Cheyenne. You made a profound that it just hit me. It just, granted, I'm 50 years old and we are still learning, but what you said was so profound. I didn't know how to be a friend. Whoa, I got goosebumps, Cheyenne. It's hitting me now because I don't have a lot of friends. Just a handful, but they are a friend in the truest form. And I mean, you hit it right on the head. I didn't know how to be a good friend, and maybe that's why I only have a handful. But I mean, wow, that is profound. And school is hard for everybody. But if you have a stutter, it's like a million times more difficult. You have the peer pressure, and I mean, you have the cliques. So I mean, I, like you, had a great difficulty in junior high and in high school. And one of my saving graces was the drama club. They reached out to me, and let me tell you, these people were supportive, nurturing. They did not care. And I was like, I think I found my people.
Right.
I mean, because you are now with a group of people who are telling you that you're awesome, in which I had never heard for such a long time, for years and years and years. And here is this awesome group of people, drama kids, and they are telling me you are awesome, you can do anything. I said, wow, what a difference those two words made, in my life. So yeah, school, what I tell everybody is just reach out. If you're having trouble, contact a school counselor. I mean, if you are able to cultivate a friendship, you hold on. You hold on, because that will help you through your hard days.
Yes.
All right. So, do you have any advice for parents and teachers with regards to children who stutter?
Oh, yes. So, the first thing that comes to mind is to play to their strengths. Like, people who stutter, everyone's brilliant, but I feel like we're like, a lot of times we have so many talents, so many gifts, just because of our experiences. Your experiences sometimes allow for these gifts to be like to these gifts that sometimes lie dormant inside of you. And sometimes we're just waiting for someone to either acknowledge that or to just help us to dig a little bit deeper. And so I feel like instead of focusing even on the stuttering, like focus on what they're things that they are genuinely doing well that has nothing to do with communication. And then on top of that, sometimes it could even deal with communication. They could still be brilliant speakers like you, Pedro. You are an awesome host, okay? And it doesn't really matter about the fact that somebody stuttered, because the energy that you're bringing and stuff like that is so vibrant. And so I feel like just focusing on the strength of your students, the strength of your child, instead of making them feel as if, you know, there's this big stain on them and they're not going to be able to achieve the things that they need to achieve. Because I mean, I know regardless of what your political affiliation is, we have a president of the United States who stutters, and there's just so many other hurdles and things that we're all overcoming each day. So yeah, just play to our strengths and just encourage, and like, and you see that person who stutters retreating, encourage them to get out their comfort zone, because that's what they're going to remember, and that's the things that are going to be really life-changing for them.
Whew, okay. That is great advice. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps over here in Texas. Come on, Cheyenne. You are just dropping the golden nuggets.
Ooh,
my head hurts. Writing down all these notes. Okay. Whew. All right. So let's shift gears. Just a little bit. Job-wise, had you ever experienced discrimination because of your stutter? And I know we can't, prove it or quantify it or qualify it or whatnot, but I mean, we know. Yeah. I mean, come on, we know. Yeah. Has that ever happened to you?
So, in terms of interviewing, for some reason, my stuttering never really reared its head during interviews. I've always been a pretty strong interviewer. Not saying that if you stutter, you stuttered in the interview, you're not strong, but I was able to be pretty fluent during my interviews. And my stuttering didn't necessarily come out until like I was actually like on the job and had to do those things such as answer the phone or give presentations. And by that time I already got the job. So, right, check. So, I mean, in terms of discrimination from jobs, no, I have not experienced. But I will say this. I did have one experience in school where I was looked over it was a student of the year, and the student of the year had to give a speech to the graduating class, obviously, because you're student of the year. And my grades and everything reflected that I should have been student of the year. And I had my teachers come up to me and they were like, you're doing awesome. And it's between you and another person or whatnot. And honestly, I knew that my grades were better and that all that other things were better, that proven that I should have gotten that spot. But because I did stutter, that they gave it to the other person, because she was going to have to speak in front of parents and teachers or whatnot and students. But as I said, in terms of jobs, not directly. I have not experienced discrimination. And when it comes to presentations and things like that, I just made it. I just had to deal with whatever came my way. But I have never had anyone come out to me and say, like, this is a problem. You need to fix this or anything like that. Mm-mm.
So you were talking about job interviews. I mean, Cheyenne, my job interviews, I crashed and burned. I would hyperventilate. I almost passed out. The person had asked, am I okay? When I was having a block, that they would ask, am I having a seizure? Do you need to call 911? I was like, so I had a couple years of just horrible job interviews. And for me, it was about survival.
Mm,
Because you have to pay rent,
yeah.
we have to eat, and so I would tell myself, okay, so here is what you have to do. And I mean, I
Hmm.
can't hide it. I mean, good Lord, you can't hide. It's just out there. And so what I had learned, and I wish I did this previously, but um, I disclosed just
Hmm.
right off the bat. I would
Hmm.
I would walk in and smile and say, "Good morning. My name is Pedro Peña. I have a speech impediment, so
Hmm.
I have a stutter. So if I get hung up on any word, just give me 8 hours, and the word will come out." And that's what they did. They laughed, and that told me everything is going to be all right. Everything is
Yes.
going to be all right, because that was my icebreaker. And after I did that, I kid you not, Cheyenne, everything was gone. The stress, anxiety, everything was gone. And I still stuttered, but I would focus on the answers. I
Mm.
focused on the eye contact,
Hmm.
because what what I learned later in life is that eye contact is super important,
Yeah.
super important. So um the first 5 years, horrible job interviews,
Yeah.
horrible. And then later, after I just disclosed, it got better. It
Mm.
got better. But
Mm.
I mean, that's not to say that I didn't get this job and that job and that job. So I learned from every job interview what I should have done, and then I would apply it to the next job interview. And
Mm.
eventually you're gonna get it right.
Yes.
you know and that one time I did it right, and they hired me. And it's just awesome.
Yes.
So what I tell everybody, job interviews are st- stressful.
Hmm.
But for Pedro, because I can only talk for me, I mean, we're all different in our journeys. However,
Hmm.
we all have the same common denominator, that we have a stutter. And for Pedro, after I disclosed, everything got better. I mean, I tell everybody at the post office, at HEB, at Kroger, at Walmart, I tell everybody that I have a stutter, because what I believe in education, I
Mm.
believe in raising awareness, because my motto is, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
So yeah. Whew. All
Well,
right.
can I say something about the
Always.
disclosure? Okay,
Always.
so I think that's a great point about you feeling just comfortable in your own skin and stuff like that, to say, listen, this is who I am, accept it or not. Because for a long time with disclosure, I used to felt like I was giving my power away. I felt as if, like, okay, I'm telling these people up front that I stutter, and automatically they see this weakness. And and the reason why I was feeling that way was because that's actually how I felt about myself. So I feel like with disclosure, that is one of the things where you have to play with, and you might not necessarily get it right, or get it right the first time, because sometimes you can be victimizing yourself when you disclose that you stutter, and then you're wondering why everyone is seeking pity on you. And it's because of the energy that you're holding towards it. Like, you're like, okay, yeah, I stutter, please bear with me and stuff like that, instead of just owning it and just saying, listen, like, this is a part of Cheyenne, just as how my middle name is a part of me, and just being able to say it in a confident way. And I just love what you said, just give me 8 hours. Like, I would just be on the floor or whatever. I think that's awesome. I think that's a great way to just ease into it and let people know that it is okay for people to speak differently, and you can still be courteous, and still just showcase your personality. And I think that's the best part about what you said, is that you're just like, because a lot of people like to ask speech language pathologists about how should I disclose? But it's really has to be something that is resonant with your personality. How can you disclose in a way that still is able to uphold your essence? And so that's awesome, Pedro.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you may borrow it. Works every
Yes.
time. I mean, it works every time. I love it. All right. So let's talk about some ADLs. And these are activities of daily living. So just pre-COVID, okay? How did you handle telephones? How did you handle drive-throughs? And how did you handle restaurants? Like
Okay.
I'm ordering with the waiter.
Okay. So pre-COVID, honestly, I feel like I am into that point of my journey where I feel like everyone has that point where they used to think about stuttering all the time. Stuttering dictates everything. Stuttering dictates what I'm going to eat today and stuff like that. And to be honest, I have not had even when I have more disfluent days, I have not had a day where that's necessarily dictating whether I'm going to talk on the phone or whether I'm going to eat or whether I'm going to, what the last one that you said. So that really for me, I feel like I'm able to able to communicate my choices, my needs, my options in those instances for sure. Especially when it's on a surface level. So speaking about common things for me is not as stressful as maybe just getting a little bit more deep into conversations. I feel like for me, my stuttering I become more disfluent when I have to speak at length about things and stuff. So if you catch me on a date or something like that, that would be a time where my stuttering, it's definitely there.
Okay, so now in COVID, I mean, it has completely pushed us, and by us, people who stutter, pushed us completely out of our comfort zones. And here is the power of awareness. So I was in a clubhouse room with, I think it's like a couple of hundred people, and we were talking about the importance of having good mental health during COVID. And so I was telling myself I need to raise my hand, in Clubhouse and join this conversation. That way, I could tell them what's happening to people who stutter. So I raised my hand, and they have you in a queue. And so I was like number 18. And for a stutterer to know that you're number 18 and then you're number 17, your heart is about to explode. You are sweating. You're thinking, what have I done? Have I lost it? And then you go up to number 1, and then they welcome you. And they were asking about the mental health during COVID. And so what I told these hundreds of people in this clubhouse room, I was telling them that COVID has completely pushed people who stutter out of their comfort zones. Because for Pedro, I can only speak for me. For me, I was just getting okay talking face to face. I just reached that point where Pedro is good talking face to face. And now in COVID, they have pulled you out of that, and have you with a webcam, and now everything is remote. And so I was telling these hundreds of people that it has pushed people who stutter out of their comfort zones, because now we have to learn a whole new medium. I mean, we have to learn how to mold our non verbals. I mean, because I can't tell you how many times I have been told on Zoom, did his screen freeze? I'm just having a block. I have good internet.
Right.
I have the best, but no, I just have a block. So what I was telling these hundreds of people is that I had to learn. I had to adapt. So I called up my buddies and told them, let's do a practice on Zoom, on Skype. That way, when I have to do it for real, for
Right.
work, that I will be somewhat okay.
Yeah.
And so having told all these hundreds of people that they were completely like they had no idea. They had they were just focused on, I don't want to say regular people, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. And they had no idea, and this completely had opened up their entire world of, here's what people who stutter go through now because of COVID. I mean, um it has just caused us a bunch of anxiety, fear, and so how have you coped with this new normal of Zoom and Skype, and how have you adapted?
Yeah. So for me, actually, pretty much through most of the pandemic, I was actually still working in the field. I was in home health, speech language pathology. So I did not have, I was not home and was not working from home or doing anything of that nature. But I recently decided to sever ties with the company that I was with, and so now, with doing my virtual speech language pathology practice, that my clients are, I am doing that via teletherapy, and um and 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 also some in person. And I think that for me, the big thing is the mask. And I say that because when you're blocking as a person who stutters and stuff like that, it's like a whole body experience sometimes. And then you're blocking, and then you realize that you're out of breath now because this mask is like suffocating your entire face, and you're unable to really and then you can't really show the other person that you're communicating with that you need additional time. So I feel like the mask, especially with speaking with people who are fluent, that has become something that makes it a little bit more awkward, makes maybe disclosing a little bit more unnecessary, because they can't really see what's going on in on underneath your mask. They may be able to tell that you might be struggling due to your eyes or whatnot, but they're not really able to see what's going on. So it just makes it a little bit more anxiety inducing when it comes to when it comes to speaking in person and having to use masks. In terms of teletherapy or just Zoom calls or whatnot, like I said, that experience for me is not super anxiety inducing. So I don't necessarily have an adverse experience with that. Yeah, it's just what it is.
Yes, many people who stutter that I speak with regarding Zoom, I mean, this is a whole new world. I mean, and with it, it brings all of these insecurities, and and there just comes a time when you either move forward, learn, adapt, or you stay. And for me, I had to learn this. I had to learn how to speak in front of a group of people, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, and more. And it takes practice. It takes practice. And so what I tell everybody, my motto is practice does not make perfect, because I don't believe in perfection. I believe that practice makes permanent. And so the more that you practice, you are building that muscle memory. That way, the next time you hop on Zoom or Skype or Teams, when that light pops on, your muscle memory is going to kick in. Oh, I've done this before. Okay. And I still disclose, I mean, to everybody, that way everyone in the room, they know that Pedro has a stutter. It's not my internet connection.
Right.
It's not going to freeze. It's just Pedro. Just give me some time. Everything's going to be all right. Just be patient. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. So have you have you ever done this? We are talking about secondaries. If you're having a block, do you tap your head or tap your shoe or tap your leg, or I mean, do you do anything to help you with the block or the repetition?
Not necessarily. I feel like when I have a block or repetition, I'm working on this, but as you said, like eye contact is like super important. I usually divert eye contact. And I noticed that when you do divert eye contact, you probably end up in the block a lot longer than if you would have just sort of confronted the monster head on. But I think that a lot of times with blocking, I just have a lot of tension, and especially if I'm excited or I'm in the midst of an important conversation, I won't take that time to like breathe or to just to ground myself. I don't like to use the word breathe because you know how sometimes that can be misconstrued in the stuttering community. Take a deep breath. But I mean, it's true. Like honestly, we have to ground ourselves. We have to ground ourselves when we're speaking, because a lot of times when you're stuttering, when you're in the moment of that block, of that repetition, your body becomes off balance. You can't even be able to decipher what it is you're feeling truly sometimes during that moment. And so being grounded is important. And so a lot of times when I'm blocking, I sometimes try to just force through that resistance, right? And I like to look at stuttering like meditation, right? When you have these thoughts and you're constantly trying to resist these thoughts, what happens? You get more thoughts, all right? The thoughts keep coming. It's harder for you to sit still. It's harder for you to pay attention. But sometimes you really do have to take that sacred pause to be able to move through whatever the resistance that is, and just honor that resistance. If the word doesn't want to come out right now, let's try to think about it as honoring the fact that the word wants to take more time to formulate inside of your brain and stuff like that. So I feel like for me, that's like my goal of how I want to consistently look at stuttering, and then even just when it comes to my blocks. But in terms of like secondary, behaviors, besides just attention and diverting eye contact, yeah, that's it.
So being at the ripe young age of 50, Cheyenne, I have learned over the years, people call them crutches. I call them my tips and my tricks to help me when I would have a block. Because back in the day, when I had a block, my eyes would close and I would stop breathing. The block was so severe that I was trying everything to get it out. And if your eyes are closed and you're not breathing, guess what's going to happen? You're going to pass out. And that's what Pedro did. Pedro passed
Mm.
out, and when I came to, the guy that I was talking to was gone. I was like, okay, so you're not going to help me. Okay, great. Just like, and so I mean, you make a great point, and I had another guest on my podcast, Wilson,
Okay.
Paul Wilson, but he had made an excellent um point where eye contact is key,
Mhm.
and what I am now learning is I maintain the eye contact even if I'm having a block. I am still maintaining eye contact because um my stutter, and later I will ask you this question, but but what my stutter has taught me is that it shows me who people really are,
Mm.
and it lets Pedro know who is worthy of my time.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to a person and if I'm having a block and I have the eye contact and they don't, they divert and they look at their watch or they look up or they look down, that lets me know that, this person isn't worthy of my time. Either they don't know how to react, how to, how to respond. It's okay to ask us questions. It is okay to I mean to ask us about what we are currently experiencing, because it's education. It's raising awareness, and that way for the next time that this person speaks with a person who who might have a stutter, they'll be better equipped next time. So I am all about the education and raising awareness, because that's the key to just get it out there. That way, if we are having a block and we have a hard time with it, the other person will be patient and respectful, and and if they're in a business, be professional. So yes. Now, what is the most effective technique that you use to help you with your speech?
Okay, so what I have found is that sometimes I can't sometimes I'm like, is this just anxiety? Am I that's just ridden my body or whatnot? So a lot of times, especially in those situations where I know that I'm going to have to speak and say, for example, I'm number 5 or whatnot, my fight or flight sense response will start to kick in, and I'm just like, okay, here's the door. Here's the actual speaking situation. Do I want to avoid? And so what I started to notice about that was my body language. A lot of times before beginning to speak, I would be very small. I might have my legs crossed or whatnot. My feet are not planted on the floor. And so what I started to do is, if I'm person number 5 that's ready to speak, then before that, I'll make sure both of my feet are planted on the ground, and I will begin to breathe deeply during that moment to ground myself. So I feel like for me, what has been the most effective is me getting back into my body, because a lot of times, especially anticipating stuttering moments, I'm always in my head. I'm wrapped up in my head in terms of what can go wrong. And I have to get back into my body so I can stop focusing on my speech and be able to focus on my message, focus on what I want to communicate, and stop being so wrapped up in the outcome of how this is going to turn out, and just speak from my heart. So for me, just grounding myself. So like I said, I just make sure both of my feet are planted on the ground and I'm feeling the support of the earth, and I begin to breathe in and do that. And then just take up space. Like, instead of trying to like have this small body and like I definitely say, okay, Cheyenne, get comfortable in this, speaking role and take up some space. So that has been very helpful in just helping me to ground myself and to speak more, just speak from more of a heart center instead of just being in my head all the time.
See, and that is awesome, because when you were talking about anticipating, the thoughts that ran into my head is mental gymnastics, because you know that we do all of that in our head as we are still talking to the other person, and at the end of the day, it's exhausting.
Yes.
Which I'm sure you have experienced this. At the end of the day, you are physically, emotionally, psychologically just drained.
Yep.
Because we do all of the mental gymnastics. We do word switches. I do word replacements, all in, you're still in the conversation.
Yeah.
And oh my, yeah, I'm tired right now. It's exhausting, Cheyenne.
Yes, it very, very much is. I think that I honestly, I guess I don't necessarily use, this is going to sound terrible, but I don't necessarily use speech strategies in that direct way, because it's like you said, it's mentally exhausting to have to constantly think about how you're going to approach this sentence. Like, why can't I just speak in whatever way that comes out, as long as I am present in my body and just uphold that? Like, it is all this other stuff. Like, great, it's great to know these tools, and I'm saying that these tools have helped me to be able to speak more freely and to not struggle as much when I talk. But to constantly be like, okay, I need to use a cancellation or a pull out, or number one, we do most of those strategies on our own anyway. We didn't need to be taught to like stop and start over or anything like that. But to easy start. And some people have a lot of effectiveness when it comes to those strategies, and they're okay with speaking like that. But for me, I want to speak with some passion, some enthusiasm and stuff like that. I personally do not want to talk to where I have to ease into words and be gentle with the words. Like, there's a lot of other, so for me, it just doesn't really rock with my personality to talk that way. So I just do what's best for me. That's what's best for me.
And you hit me with the P word. Oh my God, the P word, being present.
Yeah.
Being present. Cheyenne, let me tell you, I am learning mindful meditation. And so, I've been doing it for like 1 year now. And so I am learning to be present. And it is amazing, because when I'm talking to a person, I am not focused on my stutter. I'm not focused on, here comes a word that I know I can't say. I don't focus on any of that. I focus on the person. I focus on being present in the conversation and having a wonderful time. I'm not even thinking about my stutter. And what happens to Pedro is I don't stutter. I'm in the moment. I am enjoying this person, and we're talking about dogs or movies or whatever. I am in the present with this person, and it is fantastic. And I am learning that I need to do that more and more and more. And it is phenomenal.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for that. Okay, now, do you go through these phases in your speech? One day it's quote unquote good, and then the other day it's nothing ever comes out. Do you go through these fluency phases?
Yes. They're not as prominent now, but I do remember that I used to have I used to be pretty fluent, and then like once November hit, for some reason it was like November, I would have like a few like months where my stuttering, I was more disfluent. Now I feel like for me, I use my stuttering as really a gauge in terms of my mental health. And I know that I'm careful to not say that just because you're stressed you're gonna stutter or not or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times when I feel imbalanced, that it's reflective in my speech. It's reflective in that, like when I, especially in those moments where if I'm consistently having moments where I'm losing control, that it's normally just reflective of just my overall just mental health and just how I'm coping and just dealing with just my everyday life. So not necessarily, it's not necessarily in seasons, but it's like if I'm not taking care of myself, it shows in my speech. Yeah.
All right, so here is a hot topic. We have a couple of hot topics, but here's the first one. So here we go. So do you let others help you finish your sentences? Dun dun dun.
Yes, sometimes it's just too much energy. Let's just be honest. They know you want to say reality, and they got reality out, and it's just like, okay, thank you, I can move on, and I just accept it, right? But you know, then there are those days where they're not even close to what you're trying to say. You're just like, please stop guessing.
It's like,
you know,
wrong.
And I was like, just let me finish in those moments. And I'm just like really adamant about let me finish what I'm saying because you are not psychic.
I mean, if I had a quarter for every time that happened, I'd have like 8 Teslas in my driveway. It's like, I mean, you know, there are a lot of people who stutter who don't want you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and what I have learned is, you know, before I turned 40, I didn't want anyone to help me.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Because, you know, growing up, when they would do that, I felt like I was broken.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there is something inherently wrong with me that you have to talk for me.
Mm-hmm.
After the age of 40, I had what, you know, Oprah calls the aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I woke up, and it's funny how things happen. You know, they happen in life. And so I woke up, I went through all of the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird. I was, you know, I was angry, I was s- s- sad,
Mm-hmm.
I cried, and then I was happy. And that's when it hit me. I love Pedro.
Mm-hmm.
I at the age of the big 40,
Mm-hmm.
I said, enough is enough.
Yes.
I'm done. I am done. I love Pedro, which I had never told myself that, Cheyenne.
Mm-hmm.
Never until the age of 40.
Mm-hmm.
I told myself, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
You are awesome. You just have a stutter. That's it. It doesn't define who you are. It's just what you have. And if people are going to laugh at you and mock at you, that is on them. My motto is hurt people, hurt people.
Yeah.
If you want to make yourself feel better by tearing me down, you go on right ahead, because Pedro's going to be all right, because Pedro is awesome. Pedro is confident. I still stutter, but I'm still confident. And so when I reached that point, I kid you not, Cheyenne, a whole new world had opened up. For 40 years of shame, guilt, anger, resentment, everything, it was gone. It was gone. Because at that point, I said I was tired of being tired every single day. Every day I would come home, turn off all the lights and didn't want to talk to anybody because I had struggled for 8 hours. I struggled because, as you know, your body, all of your organs are tense from the time that you wake up until the time your head hits that pillow. Your organs are like this, like a fist, tight. And so at the age of 40, I said, I'm done. I am done. Pedro is awesome. And as that whole new world had opened up, I knew that I could do things that I never thought that I could do. Because, growing up, I was told I was slow, I was stupid, and that I had mental retardation. So if you hear that over the course of your whole school life, you tend to believe it. And they tell you that all that you are good for is to just collect a disability check every month. And that is going to be your life. And so I was like, no, there is something out there for Pedro. We are all here for a purpose. And so after I learned to push myself out of my out of my out of my comfort zone, I could do things that I thought I could never do. And that was wonderful. It was wonderful. And now if I have a block, if you know what I'm trying to say, and you better get it right, then it's okay. But it is always appropriate to ask, do you mind if I help you if you have a block? Because, I mean, stuttering, there's no cookie cutter for us. Right. We're all different. We just have that common denominator. And so what I tell everybody, all that we want is your respect. We want your patience and your professionalism. So it is always appropriate to me if you ask if you have a block, do you mind if I help you?
And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that story, about your awakening, you awakening to yourself. I feel like that's definitely what I have been going through in the past 2 years. And so, like, just as how you said that you woke up one day and you just said, I'm going to choose Pedro. I'm going to do what, the things that I feel have really been put on my heart. That's been the past 2 years for me. I truly feel like my purpose is dealing with authentic self-expression and helping other people to really just reclaim, their voice. And it doesn't necessarily have to be voice in a verbal sense. We communicate through so many other mediums, whether it be your body, dance, just creative outlets or whatnot. Whether it is writing or whatnot, but finding how you can really just be able to express yourself without limits and no longer worrying about what other people think about you, no longer just not challenging yourself out of the fear of judgment, out of the fear of rejection, and just really truly standing in your power. So I just thank you again for sharing that, because that's definitely where I am in my journey, and really on a day-by-day basis discovering how great I am.
That's awesome. Thank you. Because I can't tell you, the old Pedro, I was a people pleaser. I cared what everyone was telling me. I would internalize everything. I did not have a thick skin. I had a super thin skin, and I took in everything. And to just have people like me, this is horrible, but just to have people like me, I was a people pleaser. I would do everything to just have them, look at me or talk to me. I mean, I would help them with their homework and their projects. I would, walk the dog, or I was a people pleaser, and that is also exhausting. Yes. Exhausting. Enough is enough. You like me for who I am, or if not, bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, that's another podcast, people pleasing and stuttering, because I feel like so many of us have that same story. And honestly, I'm not sure which one came first. Was it the stuttering or the people pleasing? Because I had to also deal with that too. And I feel like once I was able to get past the fact that I stutter, I realized, okay, but you're still a people pleaser, girl. Like, how we gonna handle this now and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You know it. Have to work on that. Gotta
Yes.
work on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, do you experience negative self-talk? And if you do, how do you cope with it?
Yes, I do experience negative self-talk, and I cope with that with meditation. I meditate about 5 times a day, as often as I need it. I also just recently started doing just speaking affirmations over my entire body as well. Like, when you're just doing your morning routine, maybe you're just like lotioning yourself, just speak life over your body and stuff to just pretty much replenish that positive energy inside of you. And then also too, I find ways. So anytime I'm focused on something negative or I'm having a consistent negative thought, I focus on the feeling of what it would be to be the opposite of that. So not necessarily the thought, not necessarily focus on a different thought, but the feeling. How would that feel in my body if I was this other thing that I wish that I wish that I could embody. And I put my attention there. And so a lot of times for me, I do this like meditative dance, and it's really interesting because it allows for me to sort of play with both aspects, the light and the dark, right? So if I'm feeling, just a lot of judgment, then I will play with also acceptance, and I will dance out how judgment feels, and then dance out how acceptance feels, and then dance out how do I merge those two together and stuff. So for me with the negative self-talk, it's just about just reaffirming. I was like, I cannot afford to allow myself to continue to go to this place again, because I know the stagnation that can come with that. I know the and and I know the hopelessness that can come with that if I continue to think that way. And I'm at this point in my life where I really value where I'm going, and I would truly believe that I truly believe it, that I'm here for a reason. And so my thoughts have to reflect that. My actions have to reflect that. And so I try my best to walk in that direction. But I do feel like having sufficient coping mechanisms, healthy ones. So whether it's journaling, whether it's taking a nice bath, taking that moment out just to regroup, whether it's going outside. I also spend a lot of time outside as well, grounding and stuff like that too. All those things, just a daily practice, and it's like consistency. It's like if you notice that you're constantly having these negative thoughts, or constantly in this mood, then you have to put in some consistent self-care, some consistent where you're really listening to what your body needs and stuff like that. Because I do feel like a lot of times those negative thoughts really come from us not listening to our bodies. Our bodies are speaking to us. There's so many in so many ways, and we just have to sometimes just take that pause and to figure out what is it that you need, and give your body what it is that it's yearning for. Because when you consistently deny your body its basic needs and what it's calling for, then that's when those thoughts come, and just those imbalances come. So yeah, I just put my focus into the self-care. It's so important.
See, and that is awesome, because the key f- f- for me, which I can only speak for myself, is to be consistent. Because was watching this TV show,
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, Dharma and Greg. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I'm a lot older than you are. And so one of the characters was talking about if you name your darkest fear, it no longer, controls you.
Mm.
So that kind of stuck out in my head because I always had that negative self-talk. I mean, like on the daily. So, 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 so I named him Oscar, Oscar the Grouch. And so when he would rear his ugly head, which on the daily, I learned to just shut him down, shut him down. And every day that he would pop up and tell me, I can't, you can't make that phone call. You can't do that Zoom conference. I would shut him down. And every day that I did that, I was building momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And now he rarely pops up, but when he does, I have learned that I can do it. Mm-hmm. Yes, I will have a couple of hiccups, but that's okay.
Right.
The whole world isn't going to stop because I can't say my name. Mm-hmm. And so when he pops in my head, I will just shut him down and just go on. And that has helped me out tremendously with grounding. I just now started grounding. I live by the water.
Mm-hmm.
So I will drive out there, take off my shoes and take off my socks and just walk. And I mean, I kid you not, Cheyenne, you feel the energy. You feel the energy. And when you come back home, I mean, you feel different. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, I feel awesome. It's like I can handle anything. I can tackle anything. It's like, let's rock and roll. Let's do this. And so grounding, I'm learning is truly awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Look, yeah. I mean, you are making me work. Look, you are making me work today, Cheyenne.
Awesome. Ooh, and okay. I wanted to say one thing at you about what you said too. I think that your thought about consistency, that with the negative self-talk, a lot of times when that happens, like we have been consistently betraying ourselves in some form or fashion. Like I said, not listening to either not consistently moving forward in something that we want to do. And so, and sometimes that avoidance that, may have stemmed in stuttering can sort of bleed through into other areas of our life. And so that consistency and just constantly showing up for yourself, and even if it's in a small way, can definitely help that negative self-talk too.
Exactly. Awesome point. Okay, now here comes another hot topic, and it's a head scratcher. So I ask all my guests, and the answer is just split right down the middle. So let me ask you, Cheyenne. So when you are alone, can you speak without stuttering?
No, I stutter when I'm alone.
So do I. I mean, I cannot tell you. When I'm going through my calendar in my head and talking to myself, as we all do, I answer myself, I'm still stuttering. And when I'm talking, to my dog, Ruby Jean, I'm still stuttering. I mean, we're all different.
Yep.
And so that's interesting. Okay, now, has this ever happened to you? Let's say you have a doctor's appointment and so you go there, you hop in the building, you go into the office, and you're greeted by the admin person, and they ask you for your name. And then you're having a block, Cheyenne, but I'm not talking an ordinary block. I'm talking it's a block. I mean, it's a block. And then after a certain period of time, the long pause, they ask you, did you forget your name? Has that ever happened to you, Cheyenne?
Yes, countless times. Countless times, especially as a child. Not I think I had maybe a few instances like that in college, but as a child, I remember this one instance in middle school PE. And it was obviously the first day of PE, and we had to go around and everyone say their name. And the gym teacher was new, and I blocked and couldn't get it out. And he was just like, and he said it so so that everyone laughed. He's like, you forgot your name, like what's your name, and stuff like that. And yeah, that was not a good experience. Because it's like, of course no one forgets their name. Like, can you think,
Right.
like, come on now, like, be serious.
Right. And I mean, you bring up an excellent point on the first days of school. I had to do that, you have to do your introductions.
Mhm.
And so I did it one time in the first grade, and you don't for me, you don't forget that type of trauma. You don't
You
forget.
don't.
So I was having horrible blocks and repetition, and I mean, all of the kids were laughing at me,
Mhm.
and they would call me Porky Pig. Da, 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 da. Teachers didn't do nothing because
Mhm.
back in the day, stuttering really wasn't well known.
Mhm.
The only correlations was in the media, cartoons,
Mhm.
Porky Pig, and whatnot.
Mhm.
So that happened one time. And so I told myself, this will never happen again. And so what I did, because for Pedro, it's survival. We're all different, but how
Yeah.
I cope with it, I missed the first 2 days of school. Cheyenne.
Yes.
From grade 1 through grade 12. It didn't
Mm.
stop there. I missed the first 2 days of undergraduate,
Mm.
and then I missed the first 2 days of graduate school. Let me tell you, Cheyenne, that one time, back in 1975, ooh, like it was yesterday, 1975, that one time that I had to give my intro, and it was just traumatic.
Yeah.
It was the worst experience of my entire life. Well,
Mhm.
after my dog attack that actually had caused my stutter, but that was, I mean, I told myself, I will not allow that to happen to Pedro.
Yeah.
And going back to school, did you have to read out loud in school?
Yeah, they call it the popcorn reading, and
Oh,
they go around, and it's your
yes.
turn. It's a popcorn. Oh yeah, I would excuse myself many a times, but then I would come back and they would save my spot.
Oh, no, that is wrong. That is wrong.
They would save my spot, and I'd just be like, why do I have what? I think something about your story that I love is that you gave yourself a choice. Like, I just kept putting myself through that trauma, and I wish I would have came back and been like, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm not talking, like, because this is just ridiculous. But I do.
Yes.
But I did start giving myself a choice in graduate school I'm not grad in undergrad to an extent, because I would read the syllabi. And if they had presentations, I'll just drop the class. And that worked for me up until like senior year of college. And I couldn't
Ooh,
drop it anymore.
let me tell you, Cheyenne. I mean, in school, g- grades 1 through 12, I
Mhm.
lived in a restroom stall.
Mhm.
If we had to read out loud, if I was number 8, ooh, nope, I would raise my hand and go to the restroom. I
Yes.
spent a majority of my school time in the boys' restroom, and back then we didn't have mobile phones. We
Mhm.
didn't have all these electronics. We had rotary
Mhm.
telephones,
Mhm.
Cheyenne. If that lets you know what Pedro was going through back in the day, and then it, I mean, had it had followed me all the way to undergrad and graduate school. And like you, I would look at the syllabus, and if we had to do presentations, ooh, I was like a used car salesman. Let's make a deal. I would
Yeah.
tell them, because here comes the people
Mm.
pleaser Pedro. Here he comes. I will do all the work. I will do all of the research. I will write everything. I will do everything on PowerPoint, everything, if I don't have to speak.
Mm.
And the other group members, awesome, cool. And so, I mean, survival,
Yeah.
survival, Cheyenne. So, oh my gosh, ooh, you brought back memories back in my day. Now, here comes a deep question. Do you consider stuttering as a disability?
No. Um, and that's just my personal opinion of it. I really do think that I don't think there's any mistakes in anyone's in the way anyone was created, and I really feel like for a lot of people who stutter, we have something to say, something to communicate, especially verbally, and that it's only a disability if you allow it to. And I know that stuttering can be variable in range in a broad spectrum for a lot of people, and for some people they can really consider it because they can't. It's very difficult for them to get out. Even very difficult for them to get out their words on a daily basis consistently. That I can see how that can be a hindrance for people. But for me, once I was able to remove the lens of victimizing myself because I had a difference, that a whole new world of possibilities opened up. And I realized that my stuttering really wasn't actually the thing that was holding me back. It actually was poor self-esteem, the lack of this, like not really having a strong sense of self, not really developing myself, or not really cultivating who I was. And it really had nothing to do with the stuttering, and it was actually other things that was holding me back, that was technically a hindrance for me. So in a short answer, for me, no, stuttering is not a disability. Stuttering is a difference, and in more ways than many, it's a superpower. It has caused me to really, it has really allowed me to be introspective. And I think that's like self-aware, and certain insights and things that I've come about, I don't think really would have been possible if I was always just like, just like out there, like especially as a kid. I feel like my temperament that I had as a kid is really has helped me grow into the adult that I am today. And so I'm grateful. Yeah.
How cool. Um, let me ask you this. So here's another hot topic. All right. I know you're young, 18, 19, 20. You're very young. Let's talk about dating, because, dating is, stressful for a lot of people.
Woof.
And if you have a stutter, it's like a
Yeah.
million times more difficult. How did you handle dating with having a stutter?
Yeah. That part is difficult because I feel like stuttering, you're already wearing this vulnerability on your sleeve when you first meet somebody new, and we're trying to impress somebody, and it can be difficult. But what I sort of found is that by me hiding my stutter, that I'm actually hiding who I am. And so it makes it a lot more difficult to even have further intimacy with that person, because if you're hiding this one big part of you and stuff, how can you even go deeper on deeper on other levels? So if I feel like I was in this cycle where I was having a lot of superficial relationships, or a lot of relationships where emotionally it wasn't fulfilling, and realizing that a part of that was because the one thing that's out loud about you can't even be out loud. You consistently want to hide, you consistently want to cover up and pretend like this is not there. And so how could you even, if you can't even build the trust on that really apparent level, how can you start to build trust on things that are things that are of more importance? So this is still a journey for me in terms of dating, but my plan is to be more authentic and more open about the fact that I stutter, and because it's going to allow me to be more vulnerable with that person overall.
How cool. That's interesting. That's awesome. And I mean, what I have learned is, for me, I skipped that whole process. I skipped it. One of my best friends, her name is she's still here. Her name is Sean, and and so I met her in college, and she's like, you need somebody. You're always alone. Oh my gosh. I mean, okay, thank you.
Right.
You need someone in your life. And she scheduled a blind date. Now, come on, that's like a trillion times more difficult than just a regular date.
Yeah.
But here's the cool part. So, it was at a restaurant, opened up the door, and immediately the eyes locked. And that was it. That was it. Game over. And next February, it'll be 26 years next February. So the heart doesn't care if you stutter. Yes. It doesn't care if you're bald. It don't care if you are. It just don't care. It just don't care. And once you find that that one person, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, because I mean, they love you for you. Yeah. Stutter, no stutter, you bald, walk bow-legged, it don't matter. They love you for you. Yes. And so that is like the awesome part of it. So yeah.
That's awesome, Pedro.
It's a journey.
I just turned 29, and so
no. Yeah. I object, Your Honor. I object. What can I object? You do not look 20. No, I'm sorry. We are done talking. I'm done with this interview.
So
you look so young, 18, 19.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What I get it. Eating?
Listen, I get it all the time, but it's thanks to my mama, right? But I definitely feel like this is my year for love, for just relationships, just in general, friendships, all that stuff, connection. So I'm looking forward to, what before 30 brings.
How cool. Okay, now, what do you think about all this new technology? You have Google Home, you have Alexa, and then you have Siri. Do you think all this new technology is helpful or hurtful for people who stutter?
So I do know that they are testing, that they're doing more testing with people who stutter for the artificial intelligence, like things like that, which is great. I feel like as long as they are testing to allow for the variation in just in speaking, because not only for stuttering, but then it goes to dialects too. You know, like you can be a person who stutters and then be somebody who speaks African American English and stuff like that, and you know, not necessarily know how to code switch, and they won't pick up because of that, because it's not mainstream English. So I think that as long as they are being aware of the diversity that's needed in terms of the speech samples that they're collecting, that it can be really beneficial. But I know that it can be extremely frustrating when you're trying to call on Alexa or call on Google.
Woo,
and
you better preach, Cheyenne.
and they just ain't getting it. Like, honestly,
No.
like I'm just like, this is stupid. Honestly, I feel like Siri is the most unintelligent artificial intelligence. Like, she's not smart at all. But you know, when it comes to like Google and it comes to Alexa, I know that it could just be super frustrating when you're just trying to set your timer and
Yes.
it times out too
Yes.
it times out too quickly. It doesn't give you that time to complete that thought. Like, you just be like, okay, forget it. Like
it will only give you one second to respond, and for Pedro, I need 20 just to breathe. And then by that time, I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Right.
Please repeat. I know. But on your previous statement, I was a part of 2 collegiate research studies, 2 different universities, and they are creating, it's really awesome, a new AI in intelligence like Google and Alexa, and they are creating this new algorithm AI technology to help people who stutter. So it is coming down the pike. So I am extremely thrilled, because my SUV, it's voice activated. But as you know, there are times nothing's coming out, Cheyenne. So I just push a button. Let's start.
Right.
Let's be on our way. All right. So here is a really deep one. So what is a challenge speech-wise that you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
I'm gonna say a challenge speech-wise for me is speaking in like small groups, not necessarily large groups. I feel like large groups I'm more okay, but speaking in small, more interpersonal settings is very difficult for me. And like I said, I feel like the way how I've overcome that is with grounding. Just consistently being present in my body has been the answer for me in a lot of situations, not focused on how it comes out, just being present.
Mine was the telephone. It was the telephone. Because as you know, I grew up in the 70s and we had the rotary phones. So just picture this, Cheyenne. This is going to blow your mind. So as you are dialing, let's say the number 4. And so you do it and you turn it all around, and then you hear I said, game over. I'm sorry. I'm done. I mean, the phone is making fun of me, number 1. Number 2, I can't make a phone call. And so I had that growing up. The telephone was my nemesis. And I couldn't call anybody to save my life. I would have people call for me. I would have them call Pizza Hut and order pizza, call a store to see what time they're open, and so the telephone was just it was a mountain that I could not conquer until in the corporate world, you have to answer the phone. You
Yeah.
have to, or have a nice day. And so what
Mhm.
I did was I hopped on eBay, and so I bought a office telephone that looked exactly like the ones that we had at work. So what I did was I put it on top of my bed and I practiced. It
Mm.
wasn't plugged in. I drew on my acting from high school. I'm a drama kid. I drew upon all of my acting skills, and so I would pretend to make calls and receive calls. And so to
Mm.
make calls, I go, da 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 da, and then I would just have a conversation. I mean, just in my head, a made up conversation. And
Mm.
then I would practice receiving calls. And so I go, bring, and so I pick it up, have a conversation. And so I did that for 6 months.
Yeah.
For 6 months, I did that. And let me tell you, Cheyenne, at the end, it became boring. Boring. No more fear, no more anxiety,
Mhm.
no more anything. It was boring. So when I had to do it in the real world, when there was a real world application at work, when it would ring, mu muscle memory, I picked it
Yeah.
up. Good morning, I'm Pedro. How may I help you? Er? It's like, I mean, it's like, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, that was a huge challenge that had to, overcome, because again, it all comes down to survival.
Bible.
We have
Yeah.
to eat, we have to
Mhm.
pay the rent, we have to wash our clothes. And so no, Pedro, you have to do this. And that is how I did it. And so
Yeah.
practice, practice, practice.
Very true.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. It is
All right.
lifelong work.
Okay. So, do you think that it's okay to stutter, or is it important to keep chasing the fluency gods?
Hmm. The acceptance versus fluency conversation. It really depends on the person, but for me at this point, it's the acceptance part. Because, and like I say, in a holistic way, the acceptance part, it does not stop at your stuttering. I feel like that's just the beginning, and you'll start to see that as a person goes through their journey, they'll see that other areas in their life where they weren't pretty accepting of themselves, and see that it's all a part of the big picture. Like, you can't just accept your stuttering and then don't accept this other thing about you. It all really comes together. So I feel like the acceptance and really chasing after acceptance and radical self-love, is really what's the most important, and what's going to get you the results that you need, and for you to have the fulfilling life that you desire, versus just focusing on fluency. But there's a time and place for that. I mean, I definitely don't knock my initial speech therapist focusing on fluency, because that's what I needed, and I'm grateful for that at that point. But I feel like, especially if you've been through speech therapy before, that acceptance is probably going to be the your best bet, for treatment.
Cool. Now, what has your stutter taught you?
Hmm. My stuttering has taught me that communication is far much more than words. I focus so much on, like I said, I know a lot of us do, we focus so much on just getting it perfect, saying it perfect. And it's like you lose all the emotion in that. And it's like what people really feel when they speak to you is the passion, is the emotion, is the nonverbals, is all of those things. And it's like, if you are so focused on fluency, you're so focused on just not stuttering, you miss all of that. Because when I was focused on that, like, it was like you were talking to somebody that's like almost like a robot, because you're just focused on trying to get it, and then that pain that you're feeling, the person you're communicating with, they feel that pain too, and that's where that pity comes from, and you're wondering like, why do I feel disempowered every time I talk? It's because you are it's because you are disempowered. You're disempowering yourself. And so I just feel like when I realized that, it is not about just being fluent. Like there's so much more to me, so much more to the message that I need to be focused on. That really, stuttering really, really, really showed me that.
How cool. I mean, whew, like what I was telling you previously, my st- 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 stutter has taught me a great many things. It shows me who people really are. It has taught me empathy. It
Mm-hmm.
has taught me courage and resiliency,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, we get knocked down on the daily. I can speak for Pedro. I mean, when I would get knocked down, I would get back up and then knock down again and get back up, because I know it's going to be all right. It is. I just have to go through this hiccup, and
Mm-hmm.
then with every knockdown, I learn something and learn something, and then I apply it to the next. So we are extremely resilient people. We are creative. We are resourceful. We are super intelligent. I mean, we
Yeah.
are just awesome. And that is why you and I are having this awesome conversation to just tell the whole world that we're awesome.
Yes.
Hashtag awesome.
Awesome. And I want to say this too, like you are an amazing listener too. I really just have been observing you, and you just how you respond to questions and stuff just by being present. And so I don't know if that's a gift from stuttering or that's just who you are naturally, but I just
Oh,
wanted to
thank
point that out.
you. Look. Thank you. Whew. Okay. So what advice would you give to another person who stutters?
So I would tell them to find creative outlets. Just find some medium to be able to express yourself. If you feel blocked in one area, to find something that just allows you to be passionate, allows you to express yourself in authentically without boundaries, and to just use that as your form form of healing until you can get to that point where you know you're more accepting of where you are, of who you are, and just be focused on the things you can change, because at the end of the day that's the only thing that matters. And regardless of whatever your position is, it's still not an excuse for you not to go forward in your purpose. So regardless of your stuttering, that's not an excuse for you to stay in that cycle of and stay in that cycle of thinking that you can't do, that you can't be. We all still have a responsibility to do what we came here to do, and it's up to you to really explore and it's up to you to really explore and to find out what that is, regardless of your level of fluency.
Ooh, that is great advice. Oh, that's awesome advice. Now, here's the last question, and this is huge. This is a big one. So, if you had the opportunity to be on the world stage, let's say you were at Wembley Stadium, to just tell the whole world, give the world some in insight about stuttering. What what message would you convey?
Hmm. I would tell people that when you stutter because you're nervous or because you're about to public speak. It is not the same. So I understand the need to find some commonality between a person who stutters and a person who doesn't, but we do not have the same experience. So let's try to just honor each other's experience and to just know that you will not know what it's like to actually be a person who stutters and to have and to have that experience, and that's okay. Yes, you might understand what disfluent moments are, but the struggle of stuttering, you don't necessarily have that understanding. So let's just all be, more, I guess, accepting and just more honoring of other people's stories instead of being so focused on trying to find how you're so similar to somebody. It's okay that we have this difference and that you really don't have an idea of you really don't have an idea the idea of how that feels.
Oh, that's a good message. That is a good message to end on. Cheyenne, it has been just a pleasure to speak with you. When I see you through the webcam, when I hear you, all that I get is sunshine. I
Aw.
get positivity. I get radiance. I mean, half full, half full, half full, half full. I mean, it's it, it's just awesome. So I want to tell you that this has been an awesome conversation, and
Yes.
I have the best global listeners from all over the world, all over the world. What if they wanted to reach out to you? How would they do that?
Yes, thank you so much, Pedro. This conversation, like you said, was amazing, and I just appreciate you. So, you guys can reach me at ultimatestutteringtherapy.com. Also, that is also my Instagram handle as well. So, Ultimate Stuttering Therapy. Also, I have a YouTube channel that I'm just recently beginning, and you can reach me at Cheyenne. That's it, at Cheyenne Dejeuner. So, it's SHIANDEJIANE. Um, and yeah, those are my handles.
How cool. So I will post all those links into the podcast notes, and so that my guests from all over the world, from Australia, Germany, Scotland, Ireland, the UK, I mean, from all over the world, they can have access um to all of your links. Plus, um, please talk about your practice, because when I looked at your website, I saw Reiki, Reiki,
Yeah,
Reiki.
Reiki.
um, okay, tell me more about your practice.
Yes, so I am a speech language pathologist in Atlanta, and I like to view stuttering. I feel like throughout this podcast, I talked a lot about self care. I talked a lot about just energetic balance and just being able to ground yourself. And I think that's an important component of stuttering therapy. And so, a big part of the stuttering therapy that I do has a lot to it has a lot to do with approaching it from a life coaching perspective. And so, with the life coaching and just a holistic perspective, I'm really focusing on, what truly is stopping you, from pretty much achieving your dreams or achieving your goals. It's not just the stuttering. And so, sort of getting down to that from a life coaching perspective and just helping you and just helping you to move forward in terms of your values. So helping your values to align with your actions. Even though you're a person who stutters, you still have you still have aspirations. And so as long as you stay in line with what your aspirations are, and you help and you allow for your values to align with your actions, and those goals can be met with guidance. And so I use that also with a mixture of just traditional speech therapy, and I definitely also use meditation. So for a lot of my clients, I create custom meditations for them. That's custom meditations that's going to target what their limitations are, the things that they're struggling with. And then I use Reiki because there has been a lot of evidence shown that the different chakra points and stuff like that can also be just effective, not necessarily in curing stuttering, but just in helping you with your overall self-expression and you feeling just more in balance and in your body. So I use a lot of different things to help the stuttering community. So check that out if you're interested.
That is awesome. When I heard Reiki, I was like, woo. Mm-hmm. So I encourage everybody around the world, hop on those links and learn more about Cheyenne and her awesome practice. And so lastly, 2 hours, almost 2 hours have gone by. And it's like, it went by so fast. I mean, my goal is Joe Rogan. I want to beat him and do 3 hours and 2 minutes and beat Joe Rogan. That's my goal, but it's all good. It's all good. Yes. But thank you. It has been just a huge honor. It has been a wonderful conversation. And so I love how we are just getting this out there, because what I believe in is there's healing in sharing. And so let's just tell the whole world how awesome that we are phenomenal, creative, resourceful. We're all that and a bag of chips. So I want to say thank you. I've had the best time talking to you on a Saturday morning. So thank you so much.
Too. Thank you.
So you have an awesome day. Take care, be well, and stay safe.
Bye.
If you like this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again.